a time when the new year seemed like the beginning of something truly magical, when the streets were illuminated by flickering lanterns and Christmas trees, if they even existed, were adorned with the flickering flames of wax candles. Today, we will travel back 200 years and explore how people celebrated the New Year in the 19th century, across different countries, families, and traditions. We will delve into the scent of winter, the dreams that people held dear, the gifts they exchanged, and the culinary delights that graced their tables. This is a story about a world where the holiday was quieter but brighter, simpler but more sincere. The 19th century was a time of change, industrialization, and new ideas, but New Year's traditions were not yet unified. In Germany, there were family celebrations with Christmas trees. In England, there was Victorian strictness and a fashion for postcards. In the United States, there was a mix of European cultures. In Russia, there was winter, frost, and traditions that blended with religious holidays. Christmas trees, or rather their ancestors, coniferous branches and trees, were hung from the ceiling in Germany starting in the 16th century, and the custom spread throughout Europe, symbolizing the heavenly ladder, and was practiced until the 19th century, especially in poor households, so that children could reach the sweets hanging from the branches. When and where was this popular? 16th to 17th centuries, Germany. The first mentions of Christmas trees, or at first coniferous branches, being hung from the ceiling date back to the 16th century in German lands, in particular in Alsace. Symbolism: a fir tree hanging from the ceiling with its top facing down represented a ladder from heaven, from which gifts descended to people. Practical reasons: in poor families, this allowed children to jump for sweets and nuts hidden in the branches. Spread: in the 19th century, this custom spread to other countries in Europe and the United States. There were several reasons for this. 1. Saving space in small houses. 2. Protection from children and animals. Candles, sweets, and decorations were too valuable to be left on the ground, so they were hung to prevent accidental burning or theft by children. 3. Ancient magical beliefs. In some regions, it was believed that a hanging green branch brought good luck and protected the house from evil spirits. Wax candles were placed on the tree and secured with metal holders. Fires were common, so a bucket of water or sand was always kept nearby. But people still considered it the most beautiful part of the holiday. But the decorations were simple: apples, nuts, pastry figures, paper toys. Nuts and sweets: what was served on the table at that time and what was different. In the 19th century, especially among the nobility, the New Year's table was characterized by an abundance of game, such as hazel grouse, pheasants, roasted piglets, and fish. Multi-tiered dishes were popular, such as an olive with an anchovy inside a lark, which was in turn stuffed inside a partridge. Tangerines, which are now commonplace, were an expensive treat for the wealthy in the 19th century, symbolizing status, and were even hung on Christmas trees. Everything was prepared by hand, from the dough for pies and dumplings, which were made by the whole family, to sausages. Pork dishes are a symbol of fertility, as well as pancakes, pies, and jellied meat. Happy dumplings with a surprise inside were also popular. What were the gifts given on New Year's Eve? The gifts were simple, sincere, and often handmade. The gifts included knitted items, books, candles, sweets, wooden toys, feathers and inkwells, record albums, pictures, or miniatures. No plastic boxes, technology, wrapping paper from stores. Even the gifts looked different. No plastic boxes, technology, or wrapping paper from stores. Even the gifts looked different, in handkerchiefs, cloth bags, and tied with string, After the gifts were given, it was time for entertainment. How did people entertain themselves at that time? The wealthy celebrated the new year with lavish masquerade balls, theatrical performances, especially operettas and the ballet The Nutcracker, as well as street festivals with fairs, fireworks, sleigh rides, and home gatherings with salon games, cards, board games, and mini crossbows, and treats. At the end of the century, the Christmas card was introduced, and champagne became a festive beverage. For the common people, it was pouring molten wax, watching the shadows from a candle, listening to the signs of nature, going to visit with songs. Ice slide rides, fairs, and booths with performances by magicians, acrobats, and musicians. Did they make snowmen at that time? It turned out that yes, they stopped being pagan spirits or formidable creatures and became acute, cheerful. How the snowman changed. Early times. Snow figures were associated with the spirits of winter, they were made harsh, and in Russia they were made snow women. 19th century, the image became friendly. Snowmen became an integral part of winter festivities and Christmas traditions. Modernity. The snowman has become a firmly established cultural symbol of the new year and winter, without strong religious associations, which makes it convenient for advertising. Thus, in the 19th century, it was not only possible but also fashionable to sculpt a snowman, especially as part of winter celebrations. Father Christmas and Santa Claus are the main characters of the winter holiday. They come to children, give gifts, and become the center of entertainment. But in the 19th century, things were different. In the 19th century, there was a character in England called Father Christmas. He symbolized abundance, warmth, and the festive spirit. He was depicted wearing a green or brown cloak and carrying a wreath of holly. However, he did not come to the children in person. He was an image in engravings, in books, and in theatrical allegories. In Germany and the Netherlands, St. Nicholas played an important role. His holiday was celebrated on December 6th. Children received gifts from adults on his behalf, but the saint himself did not participate in mass entertainment. In the 19th century Russian Empire, there was no Santa Claus in the modern sense. Instead, there was Moroz, a character from folk tales and beliefs. Moroz was not a kind wizard, but a force of nature. He tested people, rewarding those who worked hard and punishing those who were lazy. Outwardly, he was presented as a tall old man in a long fur coat, but without a bag of gifts, without a red suit, and without his usual smile. In the 19th century, an important change occurred in the United States. Here, European traditions were blended and began to transform into a mass culture. In 1823, the poem The Visit of St. Nicholas appeared. For the first time, a cheerful old man flying on a sleigh and bringing gifts is described. And in the 1860s, the artist Thomas Nast creates a visual image of Santa Claus, rounded, bearded, in a fur suit. But even at the end of the 19th century, Santa remained a bookish and illustrative character, and not a live participant in the holiday. Only in the 20th century, with the development of mass culture, this image changes. Frost becomes a kind Father Frost. Father Christmas merges with the image of Santa, and the holiday acquires a scenario, roles, and traditions. The 19th century was the time when the idea was born. The 20th century was the time when this idea came to life. The new year of the 19th century was quieter, darker, and slower. But perhaps that's why there was more anticipation of a miracle. Looking back, we realize that the holiday changes, but the human hope for light, warmth, and magic remains unchanged.